Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wind Down Wednesday, episode 11. So, I just wanted to get a little bit of business out of the way. I know it takes a few minutes for everybody to kind of log on at the beginning of this. So, I just wanted to remind you that I am still doing my 30% off special for all the services on my website with the code KINDNESS2020, and I'll post that in the comments when I'm done. I encourage you, if you're curious about what coaching means or you're curious about energy work, you've never had it before, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me through the website. There's a contact me form at the bottom of every page on the website, or you can send me a private message on Facebook. Let me know what your goals are. Let me know what you're looking for, and we can talk about how I would structure coaching, how many sessions I think we might want. Again, my goal for coaching and energy work is to get you to the point where you are doing this work 90% on your own. We're always going to need some help, but having somebody to teach you how to do this and not just work on you is kind of why I got into this. It's why I wrote my book. It's why I'm doing these episodes every week, to empower people to do this kind of work for themselves and to feel like everybody has these gifts of doing energy work, of tapping into intuition. It's just a learned skill like anything else. So let's get into tonight's topic. The energy in this room is feeling really strong again tonight. This is how I felt when we did the grief meditation. So hopefully I won't end up a puddle on the floor of sobbing goo, but that's okay. We're going to talk about vulnerability. So that would actually maybe be a good example of that. So I want to talk about why are we talking about courage? Why this week? It's a great topic, but why did I choose it for this week? So when I saw the news that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had passed away, I started, like many other people, I was watching all the posts. I was reading more about her life. I was watching all the things people were saying about her. And she was such an inspiring person. I wanted to say something about her, but I wanted to wait and say something that really touched me about her. There's no doubt, she was living divine service. She was a living example of stepping into what she was called to do here, of fighting for people who maybe didn't have a voice. Her courage in that regard there's no doubt that she had courage in that regard. So what I'd like to say about her personal life, about what I saw, that's what I want to talk about. Sorry, I just got a message popped up that said, I'm not sure that we're live. It says we're live, so I'm going to keep going. And of course, this will be posted afterwards. So if you're not seeing this now, maybe you'll be seeing it later. So when I was looking for a picture of Ruth Bader Ginsburg to post and trying to decide what I wanted to say about her, I came across this picture of her with her husband, Marty, dancing. And the way that they were looking at each other, there was no doubt in my mind that there was so much love there. And as I was reading, as I was seeing more things, they were soulmates in the true sense of the word. She talked so much about how his support is what kept her going when she was nominated for the Supreme Court. She said she wasn't very good at speaking up for herself in terms of kind of trying to sell herself, but that he really stepped out and did a lot of that for her. The morning after he died, she showed up in court and of course didn't have to, but she said she knew that that was what he would have wanted her to do. And I was just blown away by the love and the fact that courage comes from love. And it's in that regard, it was so clear to me when I saw that picture that was the source of everything she did in her life. She was just such an inspiring person, and she did it in a positive way. And I think sometimes we've been confused about what courage really means. I think, as I'm going to quote Brene Brown here in a minute, and she talks about how we've confused courage with heroics. And so that's what I want to talk about tonight is courage through vulnerability. The vulnerability that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had in her relationship with another person to expose herself and then take that support, take that courage, that was offered to her. Emotional vulnerability is so courageous. And so that's kind of what we're going to focus on tonight. So I want to read this quote from Brené Brown. This is from The Gifts of Imperfection. The root of courage is cor, the Latin word for heart. Courage originally meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. I think we've lost touch with the idea that speaking honestly and openly about who we are, about what about what we're feeling, and about our experiences, good and bad, is the definition of courage. Courage is about putting our vulnerability on the line. Sorry, this room's a little darker than when I wrote this. So let me say that again. Courage is about putting our vulnerability on the line. And Brené Brown's done a lot of great work about courage and about vulnerability, and she's a great resource if you want to read more about this. So what I'd like to add to that courage is recognizing your fear and then choosing love and expansion anyway. So fear is very contracting, energetically, physically. If you live with a lot of fear, you tend to kind of contract and end up sort of hunched over. And love is the opposite of that. Love is expansion. So everybody has fears. Everybody has something that's calling them to step into courage. And so the choosing to step into that love, into that expansion is what courage is. That's the way I would define it. So to be seen, to be heard, and to be known, that's what came into my mind when I started thinking about courage. And there's such vulnerability in these things, to let another person really see you, to expose who you are, to expose the things that make you vulnerable. You know, if we talk about things that make us vulnerable, how do we know that someone's not going to attack us? That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about here. So I want to give a couple of examples just from my own life and my own work about how I've worked through this, and then we'll get into the meditation. So it's no secret at this point, I've been very forthright, and I talk about it in my book, that I struggled with infertility. And there's so much shame and stigma that still exists around infertility. When I first started the process, I had no idea what I was in for. I didn't know what any of the treatments were, and people don't really talk about that stuff. So I sort of like stumbled through this process with no guide, with no flashlight, with no one was showing me. And part of that was because I didn't talk about it. I was ashamed of the fact that my body didn't work the way that I wanted it to. And I thought that if I told people about it, that they would judge me. And so it took me I was probably at least a year into really doing treatments before, I told my immediate family, and that was about it. And then I remember finally one day at work, I kind of came clean with a coworker who was a friend. And she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you've been going through this alone. My daughter did this. So my experience when I opened up, for the most part, was very positive. People were very supportive. They wanted to hold me. They wanted to give me love. But haters gonna hate. That's what I was thinking about when I was writing this. Not to quote Taylor Swift, but I just did. So there we are. That's part of this journey into vulnerability, into courage, is that not everyone is going to be supportive of that vulnerability. And that's why it's so important to develop a spiritual practice, to have a spiritual foundation, so that you're not depending on other people. You're not depending on the reactions that you get. Of course, you can be buoyed by them. But when somebody tries to cut you down, which they will, because that's all part of this triggering. We've been talking a lot about triggering and trauma. I'm writing a new blog post right now about triggering, and people get triggered. We get triggered. We're all human. So when you come clean, when you expose your vulnerability to someone, when you have the courage to do that, and then they're not supportive about it, that has nothing to do with you. That has everything to do with them. But it still hurts. It's still painful. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, because this is kind of what's going on for me right now in terms of vulnerability and courage, is doing this work that I'm doing. So I spent many years kind of living two separate lives. I was doing medical ultrasound and kind of working in Western medicine. and I come from a music background. And so most of those people didn't know anything about the foundation of who I was, which was this. I've been on a spiritual journey since I was about 16. I've been into energy and energy work since I was about 19. And the people who knew me the best knew about that. But there was this kind of big, thick black line. I remember I was in a workshop when I was working on my Reiki master teacher attunement, and I was drawing. It said, draw how you feel at work. And so I drew this beautiful energy room, massage room with this just golden light. And then I drew literally a big black line. And then I drew an ultrasound machine. And it's taken me however long it's been, 17 years or 16 years since then, to start blurring that line and have the courage to come out to people who maybe knew me through a more sort of traditional mainstream life and let them know that this is what I do. So writing my book, I was very vulnerable in writing my book. I talk about my infertility. I talk about my struggles with food. And so it was hard to publish that. I had the book done, and it was technically difficult. There was a lot of learning there, but it was frightening to put that out there and know that people were going to be reading it, and know that people were going to be knowing these things about me and judging me. And that was really my first kind of dipping my toe. I've been standing at the precipice of this cliff for a long time, and that was kind of I kind of put my toe over the edge and published the book. And then through a cascading sort of series of events, which is how, the universe usually works for us when we step into flow, we had a global pandemic. I started my website. We had a pandemic. I got furloughed. Then I got laid off of my ultrasound job. And it was like all of a sudden that line is gone because I don't have that part of my life anymore. And I'm not focused on that right now. So I've been working on my website. I've been working on getting my book out. I've been working on transitioning from physical massage and body work, which always included what I now call coaching. I didn't really necessarily call it that. There was not a name for this when I first started. There were no coaches, but transitioning into more of an online business and coaching and all of that stuff. So this has been very exposing for me. It's been very vulnerable. And again, just like with the fertility, 99% of the people that I know have been so supportive, and this Wind Down Wednesday is a huge part of that journey for me. I come here every week. I think that it's pretty clear that I'm being very, very vulnerable in these sessions. I talk about my life. I talk about my journey because I want to help you take that journey as well. And I have to walk my walk. If I want you to learn to be more vulnerable, if I want you to learn to be more expansive, I've got to do it right along with you. So I want to say thank you to everybody who's been here. This has been such an amazing journey for me. And I think I say that every week, and I mean it every week. And everybody who supported me through this has helped me step into that courage more, has helped me send love to my fears. And that's what we're going to do tonight in terms of our meditation. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do for the meditation and just kind of give you an idea of what's going to happen. And then we'll go ahead and step into the meditation. So what we're going to do tonight is tap into your personal call to courage. And you're the one who knows what that is. Does it have to do with letting yourself be seen? Does it have to do with speaking up for yourself and letting yourself be heard? Is there a specific instance that comes to your mind? Is there a specific relationship where you're being called to show courage and to step into courage? So that's what we're going to start with. And then we're going to identify the fears around that. So like, as an example, when this whole process of me sort of coming out and doing all this work, there's been these fears like, oh, what if people think I'm crazy? Or what if it doesn't work? What if what if I'm not successful? What if I crawl back to ultrasound with my tail between my legs? All of that stuff is what runs through my mind. And so you can't get rid of fear. You can shove it down, but that's not what we're about anymore, because that causes that contraction, that causes physical illness, it causes physical pain, it causes emotional distress. So we're done with that. We're not shoving fear down anymore. We're going to look at fear, and then we're going to bring love to the fear, because that's the only thing that can change fear. Love is the only thing that can change fear. So while I was doing this meditation for myself a few days ago, I kept thinking about the Care Bears, and I don't know, that's kind of my generation. So if you're not familiar with the Care Bears, there was a TV show in the 80s, and then there were actual little stuffed bears. And it was this group of bears that would work together to help people, and they would send what they called the Care Bear stare. They would basically send love to the problem, and then the problem would be solved. And when I first learned about Reiki, I was like, oh, it's the Care Bear stare. You're just sending love. And that's basically what it is. So what we're going to do tonight is identify our fears. We're going to Care Bear stare love into our fears. And then at the end of the meditation, we're going to spend a couple minutes visualizing what it would look like if you really stepped into your courage about whatever comes up for you in this meditation. We're going to do a little bit of visualization about where will I be if I just keep loving this fear and expanding through this fear, and I step into what I'm being called to do, and whatever that is for you. Again, I'm not going to use a huge amount of imagery tonight other than to get you into a relaxed state, because this is really personal to you, and your intuition will bring to you what you need to meditate on. So the first thing that comes to your mind is generally correct, or if two or three things come in, just pick what feels like it most needs your attention for tonight's meditation. So I'm going to take my sip of water here. Go ahead and close your eyes, get nice and comfortable. I encourage you to sit up if you can, with your feet on the ground. Let your feet contact the floor or the earth wherever you're sitting. If you'd like to lay down, you can, but sometimes we fall asleep. So just get into a nice comfortable position. Remember that meditation is about being gentle with yourself. We're not judging ourselves through this process. This may bring up fears for you that you haven't wanted to look at. So really be gentle. If you start getting emotional, take some deep breaths, really ground back into your body. You can use those nice ha breaths that we're going to start with, and just let this unfold. This is a judgment-free zone. No one here is doing this with you in your mind. No one knows what you're thinking of, but you have people that are doing this with you in spirit, that are supporting you with love through this process. I have had so much love come forward into my life since I've stepped forward, since I've stepped into being seen. And the parts that have come forth that aren't love are so tiny in comparison to the love that I feel from myself, for being true to myself, for being who I am and really laying myself out there. That gets reflected back from other people. So just get comfortable. Take some nice deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. You can let them out with a nice sigh like I just did. That activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It'll bring you into a calmer state. Let yourself really come into the space that you're in right now. Let go of thoughts about what happened earlier or what's going to happen after this meditation. Let's just get focused in the present. Imagine the top of your head opening, and picture that beautiful golden, warm light flowing in through the top of your head. Let this beautiful light, this love, this divine flow fill your head and face, your scalp. Let it come into your neck and your throat, down into your shoulders. Allow this warm, healing light to spread into your upper arms and travel down to your elbows. Let this energy come into your forearms and wrists and into your hands. Allow this beautiful divine support, this love, this courage to flow into your chest and upper back. Let it come into your abdomen and mid-back, your low belly and low back. Place your hands on your belly just briefly. Send some extra love to this area. Sometimes we tend to stuff our emotions and they get stuck down in the pelvis. So if there's any extra energy you're holding on to, anything you're ready to let go of, you can let it flow through the hips and pelvis and down into your thighs. You can run your hands slowly down your thighs to encourage that flow of energy down toward the knees. Let yourself take a nice deep breath into the knees. This is a symbolic and physical area of support for the body. Send some love into your knees. Let this courage, this love, this expansion flow into the knees. Bring your awareness, bring that energy. Let that flow continue down into your lower legs, through your shins and calves, all the way to your ankles and feet. We are going to travel to our energetic sanctuary tonight, so spend a moment really grounding your feet. You can imagine that you're standing in a beautiful garden. There's potting soil between your toes. Maybe you're on a sandy beach. You can feel the sand between your toes. Whatever comes into your mind here, just let that image help you feel connected to the earth. You can picture the bottom of your feet growing roots down just like a tree into the earth and spreading out, taking advantage of all the support, all the love that's available on this earthly plane. Take 1 or 2 more deep breaths into any areas of tension you're still feeling in your body. You can bring your hands there if you like. Just focusing energy. And you may notice that as soon as you breathe into the tension, it begins to release. If it doesn't, that's fine too. Letting go of judgment, letting go of negativity, letting go of the word should for this meditation. If you're familiar with traveling to your energetic sanctuary, you can go there now. If you're not, that's fine. Just picture the most beautiful place you can imagine. This is your sanctuary, your safe space. Look around and notice what's there. Are you inside or outside? If you've been here before, notice if anything's different or if your sanctuary is calling for anything. We really want to feel safe today. You may travel to your waterfall of joy if you're familiar with that, and that feels comfortable to you. Wherever you go in your sanctuary on your planet, let it be the safest space. Give yourself a few moments of silence here. Just soak up the energy of this support, of this love. Everything that exists in this space exists to serve your expansion, your growth. And as you feel comfortable here, as you feel relaxed, as you feel safe, bring that word courage into your space. Bring it into your mind here and just hold it for a moment. Notice what kind of feelings come up just thinking about that word. And as you let it settle into the space with you, begin to get a feeling for your call to courage for this evening. You can repeat this meditation as many times as you like. So just pick one thing tonight that you'd like to focus on, one area of your life that you feel that you're being called into courage? Are you being called to step forward and share more of yourself with another person? Are you being called to just let yourself be seen in general? Are you being called to look at a situation and think about making a change for yourself, whether it's leaving someplace physically or emotionally, whether it's stepping into something physically or emotionally? Just let yourself flow into this scenario where you're being called into courage. Take a nice deep breath and let it out with a sigh. You may notice through this process, as we look at our fears, you may start to feel some tension build up in the body. We don't want to hold on to that. So just take nice deep breaths if you need to. Just as we did at the beginning, breathe into any tension that starts building up around this scenario. And if they haven't already, let yourself look at the fears you have around this call to courage. What, if anything, has been preventing you from stepping fully into this situation, or from revealing a part of yourself that you've been afraid to show to someone or to the world? Or maybe it's fear about being heard if you speak up. Just see what comes up for you here. And again, just use nice deep breaths. Remember that we're in our safe observer self at this moment. We're in a meditative state of neutrality. Don't let yourself get pulled into judgment here. Just notice what these fears are. And I'm going to use the Care Bears imagery because that's what keeps coming to me. You can use whatever works for you, but I want you to take those fears and group them together so that you can focus on them. Maybe you put them all in a pile on the other side of the room. Maybe you line them up across from you. Whatever comes to you here, just take these fears and group them. And then let your heart open. Let this love that we've been developing for 11 weeks now, this divine love, this flow of beautiful, unconditional, divine energy, let this flow out of your heart and into these fears. Maybe you picture them as something you love dearly, and you can hug these fears like you would a small child or a pet or a lover. Maybe you're just focusing energy and sending them to the fear. Really let yourself step into love here. Allow your heart to open. Allow that divine energy to flow through you. Allow this golden white love to flow into these fears. Let yourself see this fear. Let yourself acknowledge it. We're not running away from fear anymore. We're not stuffing it in the back of our closet. We're looking straight at it, and we're looking at it with so much love. Take deep breaths as you need to. And just continue focusing for a few more moments. Let this love flow through you. Maybe you say something to your fear. Maybe you speak to your fear the way you wanted to be spoken to when you were in a fearful situation and it didn't happen. Maybe you scoop your fear up and say, "It's okay. I love you. I choose love. I choose to expand. I choose to look at this fear and send love to it." And maybe you'll notice that the fear begins to expand. Maybe it begins to dissipate. There's no judgment here. If that doesn't happen, it's completely fine. You can repeat this exercise and just keep giving this love to your fear, to this part of yourself that's been afraid to step into courage, whatever that looks like for you. And as you cradle these fears, as you love these fears, let yourself begin to visualize what your life will look like if you step into courage here. How will things change for you internally to begin with? How will things change in the way you feel about yourself, in the way you feel about your journey? Don't worry so much about the external at this moment. Focus on how stepping into courage looks for you inside yourself. Does it feel like you'll be more aligned with your divine flow? Does it feel like you can step into divine service? Whatever that looks like. Stepping into courage in whatever form you're thinking of feels expansive. It feels like your heart grows. Let go of the fears for just a moment and really let yourself expand into this courageous state, into this loving state. If you'd like to look at the external now, what does your life look like if you step into courage? Does your external circumstance change at all? How does it look? Letting go completely of the fears right now. We're just doing an exercise. The fears are just being cradled and held with love in your space right now. You don't need to worry about them. Let yourself really see what the expansion of courage looks like for you. You can choose what to do with your fears. You can leave them here in your energetic sanctuary, surrounded by love. If you're not ready to do that, that's fine. You can gather them back up. Whatever you do with them, let them stay completely ensconced, completely surrounded by love. Wrap them in a fluffy Care Bear cloud of love. And if you'd like to take them back with you in your energetic field, make sure that you keep this ball of love around these fears. It's okay to have fear. Everyone has fear. But we don't have to let it define us. We can choose to expand through the fear. And on the other side of fear is always love, is always joy and peace. Let yourself come back into the room. Leave your energetic sanctuary. Leave your beautiful, safe space gently in with love, knowing that it's there whenever you need it. Let it hold your fears if you like. And travel slowly back in to your space, into your room. Let yourself come back into your body. Be gentle with this, but make sure that you're fully coming back into the body. Stepping into courage requires us to be fully present. I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body. You can let the top of your head gently close if you like, or leave it open. That's up to you. There's no right or wrong answer. But allow that divine energy one more time to flow through the body from your head into your neck. Let it come down your arms into your hands. Let this loving light flow through the chest and the torso, into the hips and pelvis, all the way down the legs and into the feet. Wiggle your toes a little bit. Remind yourself that you're in your body, fully present in your body. You can let those beautiful roots that you've grown into the earth remain if you'd like, to carry you into the rest of the evening and the rest of your week. Take a moment and notice how you feel. Have you had any insights about your call to courage? Have you shifted any of your fears about stepping into courage? Are you clearer about what courage means to you? Let's end by bringing your hands gently to your heart. Send yourself some love and gratitude for partaking in this practice, for having the courage to show up for yourself on this spiritual journey, for having the courage to support others through your presence. Just briefly, let yourself open and send some of that love, send that Care Bear stare to everyone else who's doing this meditation tonight. Let them know that they are not alone, that they have your support, that they have your love, that you support their call to courage, that you support everyone here stepping into their courage, just as they support you. Take one last deep breath. Wiggle your fingers and toes again. Move your head around a bit. Really come back into the body before you open your eyes. And as you're ready, gently open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for listening to me talk about my call to courage. Thank you for letting me share my journey into courage with you. I encourage you to share it with me. Step into your courage. You deserve it. Step into love. You deserve that. Have a wonderful rest of your night and a wonderful rest of your week. And I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesday.